David, we preach about David, we testify poems, we write stories, there's books that try to explain and describe David in depth. I've noticed a lot of authors in books have brought out some of the discouraging moments and struggles with David, when we all like to remember David as a giant killer. Somebody said amen. But if you ever turn the page backwards in David's life and read the rabbinical writing of what the rabbis would say about David, David is absolutely, no doubt, a phenomenal character in the Old Testament. We can't deny that. I know that Benjamin Netanyahu is a great man, and they loved him when he was prime minister in Israel, but still I think David was one of the greatest. So my spirit went back to David when he was born. David is a young man that is the 8th son of Jesse. And nobody wants to talk about the feelings and the emotions of David and what he battled and what he struggled with as being a young man. Life didn't seem to be fair in some areas of David's life, but nevertheless, David had something that his other brothers that was born prior to him, that they didn't have. They didn't have what David had. Everybody looked at Jesse's first 7 sons as being men of robust character, being educated intellect, and everybody in the city knew who those boys were. But never, hardly ever, did you ever hear David's name mentioned at the Christmas dinner table or the Thanksgiving table or any executive meeting. You never heard David's name brought up. David was one of those young men that were put in the backside of the 40, as we call it, and his job was to care for the sheep. I'm not going to stay here, just hold on to me, okay? And David had to learn some things by himself, and I feel like tonight that perhaps somebody in this room, if not all of us in this room, in our childhood, we've had to learn some things the hard way. It wasn't because we really didn't want to listen. It was the fact that maybe we were abandoned or rejected, or maybe we fit the category of David, where he was just one of those 8 sons that everybody kicked to the curb. Because when you read the rabbinical writings, and it is true and it's not true, okay, let me explain that, why I say that, is that at first Jesse thought that David was an illegitimate child. And so he put David on the backside of the 40, and when it came down to it, it was all a false accusation. So nobody really wanted to talk about David. And so in my spirit this evening, or today, in coming home, driving a couple hours home, I really realized that David did some things and had to endure some things that maybe we had to do and that we had to endure as young men and young women. And these are some of the things that we don't want to talk about, but we're going to discuss for about 10 minutes, if you'll give me 10 minutes tonight. David has to learn to walk by himself. And it's easy when dad can hold the the bicycle when there's no training wheels. But if there is no dad when there's a son that needs training wheels or somebody to support him, you just kind of learn and get the attitude and the mentality that I'll make this thing happen if I have to make it happen by myself. And you got to be really careful here, because now you're going to come into a world of being idolatrated. You'll think that God doesn't do anything for you, but you've done everything for yourself. David is a young man that he doesn't just look like a shepherd boy with a pouch. David smells like the sheep. David understands the mentality of the sheep. David can almost tell you the attitude of each sheep because he spent day and night with the sheep when nobody else desired to sleep with the sheep. There were times when David had to learn to sing by himself because nobody wanted David to sing in the choir because David was the outcast and the rejected. He was on the backside of the 40, and nobody really wanted to have anything to do with David, and primarily because nobody talked about David. And so David has to learn to sing by himself. David has a great uncle that teaches him how to work the sling and throw stones and kill birds and hit targets way away, and he becomes a professional at these things. And David has to learn these things and put this in his heart because one day David may have to grow up. David just might have to become a man one day. And David's going to have the mentality that I've got to fight with everything that I've got to fight with. Because I have learned in my childhood that nobody else is going to fight for me. So I'm going to have to learn to fight for myself. Are you hearing me this evening? Nobody wants to talk about David. Nobody wants to talk about David's childhood. So David is the one that has to learn to play the harp as he tries to make the keys and the chords sound together and adjacent with his voice, trying to make pitches, and starts writing psalms and starts talking about things. Give me a little juice here, brother. Don't turn me down. And so David's raising up to be a shepherd boy. It's fine and dandy as long as David don't come around. Nobody wants to talk about David when he has to, start to shave a little bit and starts to exercise because maybe perhaps David might be thinking about getting a girlfriend one day. Are you hearing me tonight? And David has to look like the sheep, smell like the sheep. He acts like the sheep. He's a different dude. But nobody wants to talk about the lonely times of David when he has to wipe his own tears because nobody's there to wipe his tears when he just reminisces how it used to be when he was a little man and before he was put in the back 40, how he would love to spend time with his brothers, and perhaps the enemy fighting his mind, trying to impress him to think that there's no way you'll ever become a man because you're not part of the fold. You're not part of Jesse's clan. Your dad has rejected you. David has to deal with all of these things because David is by himself and nobody's going to give him a book on how to become a man. There's no local library. There is no internet. There is no best friend that has been there and done that and got the t-shirt and can tell him this is what you do. David has to figure this out by himself. Are you hearing me tonight? David gets something. We always want to talk about David the murderer. We want to talk about David the psalmist. We talk about David the king, but we never want to revisit David's childhood. How would you feel tonight to put yourself in his shoes, knowing that if you did trod the town, that somebody is going to make a comment about you because of all the negative comments that's been made about you from your own blood, your own family? It's intimidating for David to walk around and people point fingers and say, that's the 8th son of Jesse, right? That's the one that they thought that was illegitimate. To make it clear he wasn't. But he was on the backside of the 40. Nobody wants to talk about that. But David had something that his brothers didn't have. David had to learn to fight. David had to learn that when the bear come into the fold to take one of the sheep, he was willing to take the life of the bear and the lion before he took the sheep. And when David saw that, when God saw David do that, something happened in David's lifestyle. That when he saw the courage of a young man that had to mostly fend for himself in the middle of nowhere with no schematic, no direction, no syllabus, nothing given to him. He had to figure it out by himself for the most part. And God saw the courage of David. He didn't see a little boy that had to fend for himself. He saw something that was going to come in time, and that was going to simply be a leader and a king of Israel. That if David is strong enough and courage enough to fight the bear and to fight the lion, surely David would be strong enough to fight for Israel. But nobody sees this part either. David doesn't know there's something supernatural moving in his life, to the point that when David gets a call from Jesse, you hold on to me now, hold on, because I got something to say. It's almost his gut would twist. The headaches would start, wondering what's going to be said to me now. Because when God wanted to take David to the next dimension, he sent the prophet down to Jesse's house. And the prophet said to the daddy, I want to anoint one of your men that is a son to be the king. Y'all hold on to me. And Jesse made all 7 of his sons pass through, and God would speak to the prophet and said, that's not him. Hear me tonight. And so he holds the horn of oil in his hand. Jesse says to the preacher, have a seat, sir. Since none of my boys here are going to be the next king, have a seat. We'll fix you something to eat and give you something to drink, and maybe you can take your journey tomorrow. Y'all hear me tonight? And the preacher looks at him in the face and says, it's not right for me to take a seat holding the horn of the oil until I find out who is going to be anointed to be king over Israel. And he asked him the $1 million question that I feel that he's asking in this room tonight. Is there yet another son? You hear what I just said to you? Jesse now says to the preacher, well, there is one more, but he's out feeding the sheep. And he's really a nobody. He doesn't look like these men. And the preacher says, fetch him and bring him to your house. Somebody has to go to the sheepfold and watch and care for the sheep while David is coming back to his house with his stomach tore up, his headache, he's nervous, not knowing what's going to be said to him because he's so used to being rejected and abandoned and cast away that when he walks in, he's going to reverence Daddy. He's going to reverence everybody that is there, and especially he's going to reverence the man of God. When he walks in, the Spirit of the Lord spoke unto the preacher and said, look at him. That is the man. Why? Couldn't you pick somebody that is good looking, robust, educated? Y'all hear me? I'm done. Somebody that can make friends. Somebody that knows how to socialize, that can go to a party and gain and be influential in the party. Wouldn't you rather have that than just a redheaded, freckle-faced boy that's nothing more but an uneducated shepherd? And this is what I want to leave with you. To somebody in this room today, that David had something that his brothers did not have. And that was simply a love for sheep. And David had a shepherd. David was a shepherd. Now David has a shepherd. You're not hearing me tonight. It's changing everything. David is anointed. He pours the oil over his head and it flows down his little body down to his feet. And David is now anointed king of Israel. And sooner or later he will take the position of the throne and he will lead people to where they need to go. Y'all with me this evening? But David knew what it was like in the book of Psalms chapter 23 to sit down by the water brooks where the waters were still and throw rocks and kick his feet and possibly even get a drink of water, carrying the sheep down, let them drink. He was led by the Lord into the valleys of the shadow of death. He was put in places where his brothers could never go. And David began a relationship with a shepherd that his other brothers did not have. And when they pointed fingers and said, Israel is going to fall for sure, God said, don't look on the inside of a man, on the outside of a man, but you need to look on the inside of a man. Because what you're beholding is just a little freckle-faced, red-headed boy that smells like a sheep and pretty much uneducated. But while your other sons, Jesse, was here trying to win the popularity contest and getting all the friends and becoming more social, David was doing something that they couldn't do. And that was fighting alone and being by himself and saying, if you're not going to fight for me, then I'll learn how to fight for myself. And David got something that they couldn't get. You better hear me tonight. And David learned how to sing. And David knew how to praise. And David knew how to pray. And David knew how to worship because he had to learn to fight by himself. And that being said tonight, how many in this room you feel like you have worshiped by yourself? In your car, in your house, in your closet, in your kitchen, folding clothes. How many times, Mama, did you raise your hand and say, I just want to say thank you? You better hear me right here because I'm done. Daddies, how many times at the bill was on the table you didn't have the money? How many times did your kids go cuckoo and yet you sit in a corner somewhere in a recliner and says, I don't know what I'm going to do, but blessed be the name of the Lord. Are you hearing what I'm saying tonight? How many of you have stowed yourself away in a back road somewhere, pulled over and backed your car, your truck up in a driveway that was desolate, and said, I don't know where I'm going and I don't know what I'm doing, but Lord, all I can say is blessed be the name of the Lord. And then all of a sudden there's a peace of God that will enter into the cab of your truck or the car of your car, and all of a sudden there's a peace that comes over you. You know what that is? The same thing that David got a hold of, and that was a peace of God, and that was your shepherd, because he is a great shepherd. You know what David was saying? I don't have this thing figured out. I don't know where I'm going. I don't even know how I got here, but the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Are you hearing what I'm saying? The Lord is my shepherd, and I'm talking to you tonight. 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 Blessed be the name of the Lord. Would you stand to your feet? Please give me some juice on this platform. Please. How many? You ever thought about, maybe the Lord don't even know where I'm at? "23 Psalms on the board, please. can I say this? I don't know why I'm pouring grease. I guess that steak today at Cheddar's got me full of grease. David had a daughter. His daughter's name was Tamar. Sister, the Lord. I'm glad you made it home, baby. I need somebody to take the trash out. When Tamar was born, there's something about the voice of a son that will get a daddy's attention right now. But I'm sorry, boys. Y'all knuckleheads. And we'll fight tooth and nail. And we'll fight hell with a teaspoon of ice water. That's a little bit loud on the outside, bro. I'm messing them all up tonight. But when that little girl cries, I don't know what it is about that little girl. You feel me, Brother Raymond? Ain't something about that little girl, man. When she cries, man, you will tear the house down to get to that little voice. And when David is holding and embracing Tamar, she's got the perfect skin. Her eyes are dark. Oh, she's just a little Hebrew girl. Hebrew women are beautiful. I've seen them. They're gorgeous women. I mean, look at them eyes. Look at that little nose. Just kiss it on the nose, and it smells so good. And you just want to kiss all over it and put all your nasty slobber all over it. And you just want to just love it. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, David blinks his eye, and she's holding his finger going down to the supermarket. And now everybody's making comments about Tamar. How pretty. You hear me? How pretty she is. And he's proud, man. He's proud. I know y'all ready for me to close. Now she's 12, 13. She's reaching, her little womanhood. And David's being extra careful with her. Boys are sending text messages. And you'll get it later. They didn't have cell phones back then. Tell her how pretty she is. And little comments here and there. And David's like, oh, wait, that's my. But see, what they didn't know about Tamar was Tamar wasn't like the rest of the girls. Tamar didn't chase the boys at the party. Tamar wasn't looking for a one-night stand. Tamar had a daddy that says, I'll fight everything within me to make sure you're okay. And so Tamar has this mentality that she doesn't take after her mother. Tamar takes after her daddy. You know what she did? You know what she inherited? Y'all ready for this? The Lord is my shepherd. Little girl, the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. Why is he? Tamar, you're not even 5 years old and you're saying the Lord? Because my daddy said he has a shepherd. And the Lord is my daddy's shepherd. So why can't he be my shepherd? Y'all ready for me to stop? I know, okay? Okay, listen. Now she's 18, and now she's being hit on. But see, there's something about what she's wearing that she represents her daddy's a king. It's a coat of many colors. It's not the same one Joseph wears because it's an identity because his daddy loved him more than he loved everybody else. It was a coat of his old age, okay? But this particular coat of many colors that she wore represented two things. Number one, she was a king's daughter. Man, what a high honor. And number two, she was a virgin. She had never known a man. So those colors represented her as being a virgin. But let me tell you something. When she got 21 and men making comments, she would turn around and let her friends go with the boys. But she's like, no, my daddy has a shepherd. And I want to be just like my daddy. You hear what I'm saying? I want to be just like my daddy. I want to take after my mom. I want to be just like my daddy. Tamar, we don't ever talk about Tamar, do we? We're going to be just like Tamar. Tamar's 25. And man, the men are just hitting on her because she's so pretty. And of course she's going to wear that garment that makes her look even more attractive because she's a king's daughter and she's a virgin. Man, what boys and men would line up down the highway to marry someone as pretty as Tamar? Now she's 27 to between 27 and 29. And now everybody's like, boy, I just love to marry. And David has probably said, whoever marries her is going to marry a virtuous woman because she made my shepherd her shepherd. Every time I prayed, she prayed. Everything I believed, she believed. Everything I said, she said. I trained her to be that way. Y'all hear what I'm saying? And so Tamar comes to a place in her life where her half-brother rapes her and takes her virginity. Now, I know that's pretty vulgar or plain, but it's Bible. Don't jump on me, jump on the Bible, okay? It takes her virginity, and all of a sudden she walks out of her half-brother's house with her head hanging down. But let me tell you something. I got consolation for everybody in this room right here, right now. Your trials is almost over. Your struggle is almost over. Your circumstance is going to change, and it will change if you listen to what I'm telling you. Because when she walked out of that house and she was headed down an old rock dusty little pathway that was in between little houses and little bed chambers, going down, trying to go back to her daddy's house. Y'all hear what I'm saying tonight? Somebody met her, which was her whole brother, and it was by the name of Absalom, and he asked her, did Amnon touch you? Did he rape you? And she hung her head, and she had her head in her hands, and tears was dripping off of her face, and she's holding, not wearing, but holding her little coat because her world is tore all to pieces. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you tonight? Her world is tore all to pieces because everything that she believed in, every time she prayed, she believed God. And how could this happen to me? How could it happen to Tamar? But please hear me. I'm done. I'm just trying to close it down. And he picks her head up and says, you don't have to worry, baby. You can come to my house. Somewhere she had to tell him, I can't go to Daddy's house like this. He's going to ask questions. I'm his daughter, but I'm no longer a virgin. Everything that was taken away from me, I cannot get it back. He says, it's okay. You come live in my house. Y'all ready for this? I just felt my angel. Y'all ready for this? Now, 24 months later, Absalom calls her in the kitchen and says, I got something to tell you. What is it? Tamar says, tell me some good news, because for 24 months I've been stuck in this house. Don't want to show my face because I've been rejected, I've been abandoned, and I've been raped, even from my half-brother. You know what he said? Oh, today is going to be a day of resolution. Today is going to change everything. How would that even happen? Are you going to go tell Dad? Are you going to report him to the police? What are you going to do? It's very simple, Tamar. It's sheep shearing time, and all of us brothers are going down to visit with the sheep. So, we're going to take care of business today. We're going to go down with 10 men, but we're only going to come back with 9. She never tried to talk him out of it because she was tired of the spiritual and mental and emotional anguish. Because there's no pain like spiritual and emotional and psychological pain. And she says, whatever you need to do. So they go down and shear the sheep. And all of a sudden, 9 comes back. They take care of business. She walks in the house and says, today is the day. But you don't have to worry about it again. You can go and take your handkerchief off of your face. You can remove the veil from your pretty face. put your clothes back on, because today is the day. Today is the day of reconciliation. Did you hear what I just said to you? I know you're sick of hearing me, but I just have to tell you what I feel tonight. You know what? Now she can gather her things and go back down to Daddy's house. And can you imagine as she walks into her bedroom, Sister Rhoda? She's missed a little jewelry box. She's missed a little baby dolls. She's missed little letters that Mama probably wrote her and left her. Probably little sentimental things that Daddy David gave her. She's just reminiscing and holding it dear and said, I've missed it so much. But I want to leave something with you. Since all of that is bad, there's good. Because now Tamar can go knock on Daddy's door. He says, Dad, I just want to talk to you. Dad finally finds out that what's happened to her. He's a little upset that he's lost his son. But it's okay, as long as that little girl that I held when she was born is okay. And she goes and knocks on Daddy's door. Says, Dad, can we go outside? Well, baby, yeah. I'm done. I promise I'm done. Dad, you remember when I sat on the side of the bed or on your lap and you told me how good God was? Dad, there's some things happened to me in my childhood, in my life, that I didn't think God knew. But I found out today that the same God that you call shepherd, Sister Walton, is your shepherd. It's my shepherd too, Daddy. I can run again. I can dance again. I can shout again. I can cry with joy. I can lift my hands and I can be me finally again. Are y'all hear what I'm saying? Daddy, I just want to say thank you that you had to fight when you was a kid. And I heard your stories. But Daddy, thank you for instilling one thing in me. And that's the fact that He is my shepherd. And He knows where I'm at. And He knows how to fix the situation. So I want to leave this with you this evening. I want you to say it in your spirit so loud. The Lord is my shepherd. I don't want you to verbally. I want you to say it in your mind and your heart. The Lord is my shepherd. Daddy, let's go down to the brook where the water's not running. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Daddy, let's go lay down in the mush in the grass. He put the Psalms, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Put it back really quickly, really quickly. Come on, put it back. He maketh me to lie down. Daddy, let's go down to the pastures and just lay there. Just lay there. Daddy, let's just go down and lay there. Daddy, let's just go let's just go for a walk. Daddy, you put this in me. And now today I realize that what you've been telling me all of my life was the God's honest truth. Because for the first time in 24 months, I've got my joy back. I've got my smile back. I've got my life back. I've got my skip back. I want to go to Starbucks now. I'd like to go get a steak now. I'd like to go outside and visit with my friends. I'd just like to go swimming. Dad, can you take me down and take me fishing? The next scripture, please. Okay, He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Dad, can you lead me down by the still waters where you carried those sheep when you was a kid and you was alone? Dad, would you carry me down there? Would you just take me by there? I just want to go by there with you because, Dad, you're the shepherd. But then you told me you had a great shepherd. And now I have my own experience. And I've got a good shepherd. Dad, next scripture, please. Dad, today after 24 months, my soul has been restored. God gave me this today. My soul has been restored. Are you hear what I'm saying, Dad? I'm smiling again. Look, Dad, I'm smiling again because your shepherd is just simply my shepherd. Then he said, He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. Dad, I remember all those times you prayed with me and called on Jehovah Jireh and Jehovah Nissi and Jehovah Sikkenu. Oh, you hear what I did? You explained all those things to me, Dad. Dad, just take me down. And so they're taking their journey. And he says, listen, and, oh yeah, Dad. And I remember you talking about as a young boy when nobody understood you, that you had to take those sheep by yourself and wore off all the varmints and all of the animals to take care of the sheep. And Dad, I remember you saying that it was called the valley of the shadow of death. Dad, I'm so strong. Can you just carry me down to the valley of the shadow of death? Are y'all hearing me? And you know what she said? And I'm going to prove to you, Dad, for the first time in 24 months, I'm going to prove to you that when you get me there, I am not going to fear any evil. I'm not going to go in the corner. I'm not going to shut myself in. I'm not going to criticize myself. Dad, I'm going to prove to you that I have no fear. For thou, after 24 months, thou art with me. Thy rod, O Lord, and thy staff. Dad, you proved. Y'all ready for this? I'm done, I promise. I'm trying to stop. Dad, really, his rod and his staff for 24 months was the only thing, Dad, that you taught me that kept me afloat. Next scripture, please. There's only two more. Thou preparest, Dad. Oh, you prepared a table in the presence of my enemy. Y'all getting this tonight? Y'all getting this tonight? He prepared a table in the presence of mine enemy. And do you know what, Lord? Dad, the Lord came and anointed my head. I heard you talk about it, Dad, many times, but finally, after 4 months, I've got some reconciliation in my own spirit. And He anointed my head with oil. And Dad, can't you see? My cup is running over, Dad. Dad, look. Oh, you hear what I'm saying? In the last scripture. Surely, Dad, just like He's been good to you, Daddy. Daddy, He's been good to you. Daddy, give you a house. He gave you things that you didn't buy and had to pay for. He gave you friends. He gave you protection. He gave you service, Dad. Dad, that goodness and that mercy is going to follow me all the days of my life. You know why, Dad? Because your shepherd has become my shepherd. Dad, everything you believe, Dad, I'm going to believe. And then the last part of this is, Dad, oh, how joyful it would be for you to just carry me down to the tabernacle and leave me there so that I can dwell there all the days of my life, Dad. Just like you said, Dad. And David wrote and penned this. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord. You know why? Because of His goodness and His mercy. I want you to say this now. I want you to say it verbally. Nobody's paying attention to you but you and God. And I want you to say this as I give this service over back to Brother Cooper. The Lord is my shepherd. I want you to say this tonight. Somebody say tonight. No, not so everybody. Tonight, I'm being reconciled. I didn't think it would ever happen, but Lord, thank you that I'm being reconciled. You'll hear what I'm saying tonight. I've preached you my heart. I've told you what He said today in that car. He just said, simply tell you, He wants to be your shepherd. That anything you need, He's already got it prepared. Would you just kind of just talk to Him in your own way? I'm done. I'm closing my Bible. I don't know why I even opened it. And I wrote this down sitting here 2 weeks ago on this piece of paper, and I happened to run into it in my office a while ago. And the song said, my King is known by the cross. It says, my King is known. This is the perfect scripture, or the perfect verse. He's known There it is. And he's known for love. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to say it one more time. The Lord is my shepherd. You know, my mind runs. I can see David when he looks at that pretty little girl, that little woman. Later on, she marries and has children. But I can see David said, baby, can I give you one more scripture? Yeah, Dad, just give me one more. She said, I can just hear David say, I want to give you something from experience. What is it, Dad? I cried unto the Lord in my troubles. It's in there several. And the Lord heard my cry. Is that all, Dad? No. There's more to it. And the Lord delivereth me from out of all of my troubles. Dad, how many times? Multiple times he penned that. I don't know what you want to do now, but it's left up to you. Maybe you just need to take a moment before graduation and just stand right where you are and say, the Lord is my shepherd, as they sing this chorus here, and I'm done tonight. I promise you, he's my shepherd. I'm not perfect. He don't need me. I need him. He don't need me. I need him. They're going to sing this.